All right, hey, what's up, everybody? Mike Lindsley back with you for an ML Sports Take, brought to you by our good friends at Empower Federal Credit Union, Hides of Liverpool, the Vince Aguirre Consulting Group, and Camillus Golf Club. Well, I mean, look, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan tonight, it was extremely frustrating. The Bills lose 26-17 to the Kansas City Chiefs in a game that, look, the first half was the Chiefs were dominating the Bills, and for the Bills to be down by 3 at the half, it was mind-boggling. The Chiefs were slashing and gashing through the Bills' defense, mostly with a running game in which produced 245 total yards on the ground. Clyde Edwards-Helaire basically was doing whatever he wanted. The Kansas City offensive line, by the way, was missing 2 starters in this game and just completely pushed the Bills' D-line over. Of course, the Bills making a bunch of changes before the game, rotating some pieces in and out. Clearly, that strategy did not work. But it was a 3-point game, and you thought to yourself, my gosh, how are the Bills even in this thing? And then you fast forward to the second half, obviously, and it became a really frustrating game because Kansas City, from the beginning of the game until about the third quarter, late third quarter, they had a couple mistakes here or there, and they couldn't really convert on certain drives and certain plays. The turnover late in the first half, and then the second half, they finally, they get the Williams touchdown run wide open, of course, on fourth down, and then the field goal, and it's 23-10, and you're like, okay, well, that's 9 minutes to go. Brian Daboll, again, during this entire game until the about 9 minute mark of the second half, was incredibly conservative. And I understand Josh Allen was horrible in this game, and I'll get to him in a minute. But why in the world was Brian Daboll trying to play the read option game with Josh Allen in the first half? Why was he doing it over and over? Sure, a couple of plays worked, but guys, you had to throw the ball. You were right there. It was right there for the taking to pounce on Kansas City. And while Allen was missing a couple of throws, you still have to keep going to the air. You still have to keep going to Diggs. You still have to target Cole Beasley more than once or twice in the first half. And then they finally target him right away in the second half, just like they did last week in Tennessee when things were getting a little too late early for Buffalo. It's mind-boggling how this guy goes conservative immediately, and I don't understand what people are looking at here. I don't understand why people think that Brian Daboll is a genius and he's going to be an amazing head coach. Can he figure out being an offensive coordinator first from just a consistency standpoint? Because clearly tonight, again, there was no reason to go to Devin Singletary that much and have Josh Allen running the football that much in the first half. And then in the second half, they continued to play conservative. And then all of a sudden, you see 2 big-time throws from Allen. He hits Diggs and he hits Beasley, and you're going, hello? And they score a touchdown. And I'm going, why in the world did Brian Daboll not open it up more early? And then it's 23-17 with 6:34 to go, and the Bills are still in the game. It's a one-possession game again. But then the Bills' defense is horrendous. You thought for a second maybe they were getting the fumble, and the Chiefs just march right down. I mean, absolutely kicking the Bills in the butt with passes and dinks and dunks and Mahomes in and out and this and that. And the other thing, I got news for you. Patrick Mahomes did not have a ridiculously great game. He didn't. But he was super efficient. And because the ground game was so good, the Bills' defense was on its heels the entire time. Now, Mahomes, 21-26. 21-26 for 225 yards, 2 touchdowns. Quarterback rating was just over, what was the number here? Let me check. 128.4. Okay. It was a really solid game from Mahomes, but it wasn't a 400-yard game, a 4-touchdown game from Mahomes. It wasn't one of those, but he was still incredibly efficient. I think this tells you a couple of things now about Buffalo. Buffalo's still a good team. They're not a great team. They're not in the upper echelon of the AFC. Josh Allen does not belong in the conversation with Russell Wilson, at least this year. We compared numbers when we had to. The MVP talk is a little too premature just in general in the sport. I mean, I think it was okay to talk about Allen the first few games because the numbers were there and they were comparable to Mahomes and Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. When you think about the game-winning drives and you think about the 400-yard game, you think about finally getting over the hump for 300-yard game, you think about making plays in the fourth quarter, you think about the major throws he made against Vegas, you think about the incredible throws he made to go win the game against the Rams, the last drive against Miami. The numbers were there to compare them. not comparing Allen to the players in total, but just those few games in, like I did, you could compare the numbers back and forth. Well, right now, you can't compare things because Josh Allen now tonight was horrendous, and last week against Tennessee was getting bullied around by the Mike Vrabel defense. And this tells you right now that Allen doesn't belong with those guys, and it also tells you that the Buffalo Bills do not belong with Pittsburgh, they don't belong with Tennessee, they don't belong with Baltimore, and they don't belong with Kansas City. This is a Bills team that's in the next deck right now, and it was proved the last 2 weeks that the Bills just don't belong there. The defense is a complete and utter disaster, and finally, major problems now. Look at this game tonight. You saw Poyer and you saw Trey White, guys who don't get unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. They got 2 of them. Foolish plays and hits out of bounds. Poyer throws the guy down. You had a situation there where Trey White pushes way late. Sean McDermott's got to get his shit together here. He's got to get this team ready and prepared to go, because the Bills cannot fool around at this point. The schedule still sees San Francisco and Seattle and Kyler Murray in Arizona. You got to deal with these major quarterbacks and major teams, and you got to go up against Bill Belichick twice as well. So the Bills' bottom line is, you got bottom feeder New York Jets this week. 0 excuses. Go beat their brains out. Then you've got New England the week after. You got to win those 2 games. Then all of a sudden you're back to 6-2, and we can start to talk about some things as it is. But don't look now. The AFC East is completely and utterly wide open. The Bills only have 1 game ahead, a 1-game lead on the Dolphins, a team that's now 500. They beat the Jets yesterday, and of course they ran the 49ers over the week prior. So things getting very interesting in the AFC East. They're getting very tight, as I predicted. I thought an 8-8 or 9-7 team would win the division. I picked the Patriots in the beginning. Perhaps it could be Buffalo. Perhaps it could be Miami to win the division at this point as well. But tonight was a very frustrating game if you're a Bills fan, because the Kansas City Chiefs were dominating the Bills, and yet because of not converting and silly plays and penalties and turnovers, the Chiefs were just killing the Bills, but not putting the final punch to the face, and the Bills didn't do anything to react. They just slogged through the game, and they lose by 9 points when they had this game at 1 possession for a huge part of the time. So it was very, very frustrating, and Sean McDermott's got to get right into the room and get these guys disciplined as well. The ML Sports Platter, of course, you can download and subscribe to my podcast all over the major platforms. Spotify, Apple, Google, you name it. You know where you get your podcast. Hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports, on Instagram as well, Mike L Sports 1979. And we are brought to you here by our great friends at Welch & Company Jewelers, CNY Electrical, Pelra Contracting, and World of Beer Destiny USA in Syracuse. If you're in and around the central New York area, you're coming through town on the thruway from Buffalo, wherever you might be, or home for the holidays visiting family and friends, they've got about 200 beers to choose from. Awesome flatbread pizzas, burgers, wings. You can get there for Monday Trivia, Taco Tuesday, you name it, and all the games are on. And they've got an awesome huge area, 4 TVs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you don't miss a beat at all with all the games on as well. World of Beer Destiny USA is a proud ML Sports Platter sponsor. Thanks so much for watching. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.